you asked me if I could kindly do a read aloud for maybe some of the chapters this week. I figured since Thursday you had the most chapters to read, that maybe I could read at least one of those chapters to you. So we are reading Hidden Figures, chapter 13, which is titled Turbulence. After 6 months, Catherine Gubble's temporary assignment to the Flight Research Division was starting to look permanent. At the beginning of 1954, Dorothy Vaughan sat down with Catherine's boss in the division. "Either give her a raise or send her back to me," Dorothy said. Although Catherine had spent only 2 weeks in the West Area Computing Office when she first arrived at Langley, she was still Dorothy's responsibility. The way Dorothy saw the matter, Catherine should either be classified as permanent, member of the West Computing and continue to rotate through other temporary assignments, or she should become an official member of the Flight Research Division. Even though the manager Catherine reported to was not an advocate of women in the workforce, the meeting ended as both the manager and Dorothy Vaughan knew it would. Catherine received an offer to join the division full-time with an increase of salary. The engineers who worked with Catherine realized that she was the keeper soon after she showed them her mathematical skills. Her familiarity with higher-level math made her a versatile addition to the branch. Do you know what versatile means? It means that you're able to do many different things. The Flight Research Division was a collection of high-energy, free-thinking, aggressive, and very smart engineers. They spent their time not in the wind tunnels, but with live aircraft. They were serious about their work. The head of the Flight Research Division had actually trained a test pilot in order to improve the quality of his research reports. The division was kind of a place that would not show patience to anyone, male or female, who took too long to figure out how things were supposed to be done. Fortunately, Catherine's natural curiosity and her confidence in her own mathematical ability gave her the courage to ask the engineers a lot of questions. They didn't hesitate to explain what they knew. They spent a good part of their lives thinking about flight, and they could talk about it endlessly. Branches within the Flight Research Division investigated different topics, such as planes that could travel faster than the speed of sound, and even ones that might be capable of flying into space. The task of the Maneuver Loads branch where Catherine worked was to examine safety concerns and to investigate plane crashes. Page 104, A Bumpy Ride. Catherine's first assignment in the group was to help figure out what went wrong in an accident involving a small Piper propeller plane. The plane, which was flying along in an unremarkable fashion, literally fell clear out of the blue sky and crashed without apparent cause. The National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics received the plane's flight recorder, a device that tracks the aircraft's speed, acceleration, altitude, and other measures of flight. The information was essential to figuring out what had happened. It was Catherine's job to analyze the photographic images of the plane's instruments, recorded in very small increments of time. Hour after hour, day after day, she looked through a film reader, studying what was happening to the plane before the crash. She learned that the propeller plane flew in the path perpendicular to that of a larger jet plane, and that had passed through the area a few minutes before. You guys remember what perpendicular means, correct? So this is parallel and perpendicular, right? The engineers set up an experiment recreating the circumstances of the accident, flying a test plane into the trailing wake of a larger plane. The data from the experiment also arrived on Catherine's desk. It was eye-straining, monotonous computer work, but Catherine loved it. When the engineers analyzed Catherine's work, they were fascinated to recognize something that they had not realized before. The data showed that the air disturbance caused by a jet that flew past could be trouble for the air for as long as a half an hour after it passed through. This wave of air had tripped up the smaller propeller plane as it flew through it, causing it to stumble and crash. This was a revelation, and Catherine was thrilled to be a part of the team that uncovered it. The research done by Catherine and the engineers on the team led to changes in air traffic regulations, requiring minimum distances between flight paths to prevent similar accidents. Catherine thought, that the report was one of the most interesting things she had ever read. She also felt satisfied to have helped with such an important project. From the beginning, Catherine felt at home at Langley. She took a genuine liking to her new colleagues, who were as opinionated, high energy, and interesting. Best of all, as far as Catherine was concerned, they were all smart as whips. Like other Black people, Catherine was aware that discrimination existed at Langley, just as it existed in other areas of life. But she had made the decision to block it out of her daily routine. She refused to allow herself to worry about it too much. When she first took the job, she didn't realize that the bathrooms were segregated. Not every building had a colored bathroom, and the ones for white women were unmarked. As far as Catherine was concerned, there was no reason that she shouldn't use the unmarked bathrooms as well. Page 107, the next challenge. After they'd been living in Newsom Park for 2 years, Catherine's husband said, "I want to move our girls out of the projects." Living in the subdivision when they first arrived in the town had made it possible for the family to become part of the Black community in the area very quickly, but they decided to move to Mimosa Crescent, a World War II era neighborhood in Hampton that had been built for middle-class Black families. In 1946, Mimosa Crescent had more than doubled in size, growing from its original 22 houses to 51. The area attracted more prosperous families who were able to afford 3- and 4-bedroom brick houses. Do you know what prosperous means? Right, it means having more wealth. With a lovely new home, a job she loved, and her 3 daughters all doing well in school, Catherine felt she was living the American dream, at least for a while. Then over the course of 1955, her husband began to feel sick, first with headaches, then with an unexplained weakness. Ultimately, doctors discovered a tumor at the base of his skull, and it could not be treated. His health declined over more than a year, and as much of that time, he was in the hospital. Catherine's husband, James Francis, died 5 days before Christmas in 1956. Catherine was devastated, of course, but she refused to give in to her grief. She had made a promise to her husband that she would do everything in her power to keep their bright, lively daughters on the path that they had paved for them. Catherine allowed herself and the girls until the end of the year to mourn, and then she expected them all to get back to work. On the first day of school in January 1957, Catherine met with the school principal. "It is very important that you don't show the girls any special treatment or let up on them in any way," she said. "They are going to college, and they need to be prepared." Now that she was a single mother, Catherine established the new household rules. "You will have my clothes ironed and ready in the morning, and dinner ready when I come home," she told her daughters. Catherine was now both mother and father, the one who offered love and discipline, and the sole breadwinner. Each of them would have to work hard to pull the family through the difficult time. The children excelled in school. They took piano and violin lessons and practiced diligently. They were good-natured, outgoing, and respectful. With her steady gaze on the future, Catherine led her daughters towards the long-promised blessing of democracy. She wasn't leading the life she had expected, but she accepted the new challenges with dignity. Catherine's husband's death divided her life in two. As a couple, they had walked side by side through graduate school and marriage, the birth of their children, and their move to Newport News. Now, at just 38 years old, she was a widow and a single mother, as well as a professional woman, realizing her intellectual dream. Her husband wouldn't be there to see those dreams come to fruition, but he had helped get her career launched. All that had come before would connect to all that was to come. In January 1957, Catherine's daughters went back to school, and she went back to work. The second act of her life was about